Hello, welcome to part two. Let's keep going with solving absolute values. We're going to look at another equation here that's a little bit longer and something that you probably have never seen before happens here. So let's get right into things and we'll refer to some things from the previous video in that process. All right, copy down that question right there. 3 times the absolute value of 2x plus 5 minus 1 is equal to 29. And I want to remind you of a note that we made earlier, and that is that when you're solving these questions, what you have to do is um, move everything, not move everything that is not in the absolute value bar. You move that first, and we did that on the very first problem of the first video. Talked about that briefly, but you have to keep that context in mind here. And then you deal with the absolute value after you've done that. All right, so if I look at this question, I have that 3 and that minus 1. So what I would do is picture in this problem, picture this. Picture 3 times x minus 1. Just picture that 2x plus 5 as a variable. And you're trying to isolate that variable. It just happens to be the absolute value of 2x plus 5. That might make a little more sense to you for now. So what we're going to do is we are going to treat this just like a two-step equation in this case, and we're going to simplify it. Minus 1 plus 1 is 0. That's gone. You have 30 on this side here. Now you still have, on the left-hand side, you still have 3 times the absolute value of 2x plus 5. But again, we're picturing this as this, so what we're doing now is we're just picturing 3x is equal to 30. And what would you do there? You would divide both sides by 3. You want to note over here, you could put divide by 3. And again, you're dividing by 3 because it's not in the absolute value. So now you get down to this. You get down to the absolute value of 2x plus 5 is equal to 10. Okay, if 2x plus 5 is equal to 10, now here's where it'll look a little funky to you, but it's really based on the previous question we did. All right, think of it like this. You're trying to get some value in here that equals 10. So think of this like this. If I said the absolute value of x is equal to 10, well, what could x be? X could be 10 and x could be negative 10. If you don't understand that, go review the last video. X could be 10 and x could be negative 10. So what you have to do is you have to ask yourself the question, well, how could I make 2x plus 5 equal to 10? And how could I make 2x plus 5 equal negative 10? Okay, again, because what you're trying to do is you're trying to find this value to be 10 or negative 10. So that's what's happening here. Okay, you're trying to solve what's inside the absolute value bars. That's absolute value, not a 12, by the way. What's inside that absolute value bars to get 10 or negative 10. So now you're just solving a two-step equation. I'm going to subtract 5 over here, and you have to do it. You have to do it twice. You have to do it for each one. Your paper should look just like this. Please write this down as you're taking the notes. I have 2x now on the left-hand side because that made 0 right there. And 10 minus 5 is 5. Now go ahead and solve that. Divide it by 2, and you'll see that x could equal 5 halves. Or you could say 2.5. All right, that's one of the solutions there. But remember, that's the solution if inside the absolute value bar equals 10. But now we have to ask ourselves, what would it be if to get negative 10 in there? And let's watch and see. We're going to add negative 5 again, right? You get negative 15 on the right. And you're left with 2x on the left. Go ahead, keep going, and do not be afraid of fractions, please. Divide it by 2 and you get x can equal negative 15 halves, or 7.5, negative 7.5. Almost got me there. I bet you were hoping for that. Oops, I didn't write it right, but you know what I mean. That is negative 7. There we go. That works. That's good enough. Negative 7 and 1/2. All right, so those are my two solutions. All right, x could be 2.5 or negative 7.5. And now think about it. If you put 2.5 back in here, I'll change colors here. You can check this stuff just like I've taught you. If you put 2.5 in there, all right, 2.5, 2 times 2.5 is 5, and 5 plus 5 is 10. 10 times 3 is 30. 30 minus 1 is 29. If you did the same thing with negative 7, all right, you would get negative 10, negative 7.5. You'd get negative 10 in there. Absolute value would make it positive 10 times 3 minus 1 would be 29 as well. All right, so those are your two solutions for that. Okay, so you'll need to know how to work through a problem that has a mix of stuff inside the absolute value or stuff outside the absolute value as well. All right, with that said, let's go to this one last problem here. Dotted line, please. And copy this down. And copy it in your work area, please. And here we go. Now I don't need to put as much, I don't think, in my explanation area, because by this time you should, if you're with me, you should be aware that you have to get rid of this 18 first, because it's not in the absolute value bars. And we simplify there. 2x minus 4 is equal to negative 3. Now you might be wondering about that right there, but we can't make any conclusive decisions until we've completely got rid of everything outside of the absolute value bar. So I'm going to now divide this by 3 and see what happens. Divide that by 3, your 3 cancels out there, and you're left with the absolute value of 2x minus 4 is equal to negative 1. Now, over here I will put a note. Okay, it's can I take the absolute value of something, it's short for something, and get negative 1? No, you can't. There's no number when you take its absolute value. Okay, it's not about the absolute value of negative 1. It's about if you take a number and you get the absolute value, or you get negative 1 after you've taken an absolute value. You can't do that. All right, so the answer here, you can stop right here. Now again, notice I've gotten rid of everything that's not in the absolute value. That's why I didn't stop right here. I made that comment. You might not have known what I was saying. You can't stop here because you have to make sure that after you divide, you get a negative answer there. You might have seen that because you knew a negative divided by positive is negative, but you want to isolate that all the way down here to when you have that absolute value, just the absolute value left. When you get there and you have a negative value there, you can say at that point you don't have to do anything other than tell me that there is no solution for this. All right, and that is the answer. It's not 0. The answer is no solution. Why? Because you're telling me that there is no value for x that could be put in there, and then you take its absolute value and get a negative number. It can't be done by definition of absolute value. So there it is. There are your 2 videos. Hopefully you get those notes down. We'll be practicing this tomorrow in class, and I'll answer your questions then. But get your notes done, bring them to class, and we will get it figured out if you still have questions.